Happy 222. My name is Sheena with Arise Wellness, and this is Gene Key Contemplations with the Sacred Wild. I am going to give it a couple of minutes here and see if anybody's available to drop in live with us. And just invite us into this moment, just to enter in with our breath, just really arriving here in this moment. Thank you for taking the time to be here, watching the replay. So this is going to be a conversation today about Gene Key 14, which is the shadow of compromise, the gift of competence, and the divine essence or Siddhi of bounteousness. And what's interesting with the gene keys is that we transit gene keys every 6 days. We have a call every 7 days. We also have periods where we have a void, where we are in between, where we're transiting from one way to another. And so we are sort of in that void right now, transiting between Gene Key 14 and Gene Key 34. So what I figured I would do today is gather most of the conversation around Gene Key 14 and this bounteousness. This is a great leadway into Thanksgiving week, a time that a lot of people gather, celebrating the bounty of the season. And also, since we do have a shift, and since I am feeling like a lot of us may feel this shift with just some Saturn squaring the sun, influences in our sky happening with also Mars, we might be feeling that shift where Gene Key 34, which does begin today and will transit for the next 6 days, is about the shadow of force. And so that force can sometimes bring us into those dynamics around families or around social engagements or get-togethers or however we come together. We're really springboarding into holiday season right now. And so there's an interesting parallel between compromise and force. And I think it's interesting to kind of weave them together this week. And so if we think about compromise, one of the things that they talk about in the Gene Keys is we have different examples of compromise. We have inner compromises and we have outer compromises. When we make outer compromises, we are shifting away from our destiny, from our truth, from a place that feels in alignment for us. And those are like non-negotiables. Those are when we're trading in who we are for a title, a status, a thing that's just not really us. That becomes an outer compromise for us. Now, an inner compromise is maybe when you put yourself into a little bit of discomfort, but you do this out of love. And so holidays, here we go with Thanksgiving, getting the family together with Thanksgiving. Me, not so much a holiday girl, not so much a family person. And so that in itself could feel like the frequency of compromise. But where that compromise, where you kind of learn, is this an inner compromise or is this an outer compromise? Well, my outer compromise is aligned with making the most loving choice. And so this inner compromise on maybe doing something that's not characteristically me, by getting the family together, celebrating, entertaining here for Thanksgiving and having everybody here, can become the inner compromise in which there might be a reluctancy to do it, but at the end of the game, I'm going to feel better about hosting this and doing this because my love for my love and his desire to do this doesn't really make it as much of a compromise. I am excited to see him happy. And in that excitement, I'm willing to do things and watch things on TV or go places I don't want to go because of my love. My love is greater than my need to be fearlessly independent or whatever it is. So while my idea of a great Thanksgiving was going to be to go by myself to the temple of the universe, pray there in their temple, maybe gather for a vegetarian dinner potluck, but really, you know, there was a part of me that was like, oh man, I can't wait. I'm going to go get an Airbnb. I've done it before. I did it last year around this time. And, you know, I'm just going to go and pray. And and so shifting gears and being like, okay, that didn't happen. And what I get to do is use my competence, because that's the gift of this frequency, is saying, maybe there's a reluctancy to be around family dynamics or holiday things, or I don't eat meat, I don't eat turkey, I don't eat a lot of the things that'll be served at Thanksgiving dinner. So for me, there might be like a reluctancy or like a not really my thing. But it's like I know how to have a conversation. I know how to have a good time. I know how to make a good time out of the places that I'm at. I'm competent at that. I can share myself authentically. And I've cultivated a relationship with this family, even if we haven't dug, you know, head first into like really in-depth conversations in this family. There's still a radical authenticity that's accepted and allowed to be there. Within that, we can start breaking down barriers and we can have really good conversations. Even if they are a little bit surface level or a little bit small talk, we can still cultivate bonds within each other. And I have the competency within this to feel like, okay, I can create a connection. And isn't that what we're all really looking for, is cultivating connection where we feel a belonging with people, especially within our family dynamics. And, you know, it is interesting. It is kind of a fun thing that we all get to play a part of when we are in relationships and when we're bringing people home for the holidays, or people are coming to join our families, because there's a new, like a new little melting pot. There's a new ecosystem, and it tends to be a little bit exploratory. And you kind of feel out like, okay, what are we going to kind of get into? What's it going to be like celebrating the holidays together? Are we going to play games? Or, you know, does everybody bring a dish? Are there, you know, family recipes that we get excited about, or traditions that we want to start? And so there comes to this playful spirit, which here we are, you know, astrologically, every gene key is always going to be applicable to a sign, to a zodiac sign. And so this particular one, this competence one, is right there on the cusp. So this gene key is Scorpio and Sagittarius. It connects both of those flavors, which is what we have right now. Today or yesterday, we just shift from Scorpio season to Sagittarius season. And so in that shift, we get to feel that in this frequency, in this energy, where there's a little bit more independence, a little bit more creativity, a little bit more like, I'm not going to do things like everybody else did. I have a little bit more competency to show up in my own brand, in my own way, my own artistic expression. And so this bounteousness, this is, you know, unlocking our prosperity through our gratitude. And so we may all create these narratives, these victim mindsets, you know, that we have to do this, that we're forced into this, again, leading into this next shadow of force. Like, oh, I was forced into this. Oh, I was so compromised. Oh, I had to do this. And you kind of feel like the tension that kind of comes in this shadow, no matter which gene we're looking at, there's like a little bit of like conflict or resistance to whatever it is we're doing, a little bit of forcing. And so within this unlocking of the higher frequencies within this gene. It's about recognizing that everything that we desire is already here. It's being within the energetics of gratitude that cultivates more reasons to be grateful. And so when we fall into that victim mindset, we create and align with more reasons to be a victim and to keep perpetuating a story of less than, of life is happening to me, of whatever kind of victim mindset we want to adopt that day. And that's how we become compromised. We say we've been influenced, we've been impacted. And so a lot of us as light workers, we can say that we have these ascension symptoms or different times where we energetically are feeling a lot of shifts, So even in the spiritual world, we can still call ourselves compromised. Within the gene keys will start us off on this hero's journey and say that we're compromised and say that we've actually lost our innocence within our forgetting when we come into this lifetime anyways. It's like, oh gosh, what a poor thing. I think of like Ursula and the Little Mermaid, like poor unfortunate souls. It's like, you don't even know. And then we do know, we do carry that samskara, that wound, that there's something that we're not really remembering. And, I was saying this week that one of the things that I love so much about astrology is like, now I'm in on the joke. Before, the cosmic joke was just happening all around me, learning my own astrology, learning my gene key profile, understanding the mechanics of how I operate is like unlocking my prosperity, remembering, oh shit, I did sign up for this. Like, what a beautiful permission slip to unlock my bounty is through the recognition of like, I would do that shit. I'm in on this joke. The more that I can remember, like, none of this is real. There's no place we have to hurry off to. In fact, there's no urgency. Our gift to humanity is our vibratory contribution. We can add as much or as little as we wish. When we are operating in full alignment and truly authentic to our unique expression, the path keeps being paved out for us through that competency, through that trust. And every single time that we are instilling gratitude with each of these footsteps, with every day, with every gratitude practice in the morning or rising ritual or evening prayer or song and dance, or however we pray, however we manifest, however we set our intentions, the more that we do that and create momentum with consistent practice of I'm going to marry my masculine with my feminine within me every single day. That's the competence, which is also the determination, which is also the unlocking of the prosperity. So right now I have reignited a hashtag, join me if you feel in alignment with it, called 40 Days of Devotion. And this was something that I learned about on the Deja Blue podcast and throughout the Fluorescent Sisterhood. And Fluorescent Sisterhood is another sisterhood that I'm a part of. And so we brought this back within this sisterhood, is reigniting this hashtag. And 40 Days of Devotion is simply carving out at least 40 minutes a day for the next 40 days at least to cultivate a rising ritual or a mindfulness practice, or dedicating yourself to maybe something that's kind of stretching you outside what you think that you're capable of. For me, for an example, I want to write a book. I want to write an oracle deck. So part of my daily devotion is committing to writing. And I feel really stuck. I've got that writer's block. And so the commitment for me is a daily devotion to write. I'm not saying write chapter 1, write this book, write perfection. I'm just saying write. Show up at the table with a pen and a paper or a laptop and write for an hour and devote that time to that practice, and then see what becomes unlocked. So one thing that's really special about this particular gene key is it's like being born with a silver spoon in your mouth. And this one happens to be within my hologenetic profile. And so it's really interesting when you do start connecting with other people that are studying the gene keys and learning which ones are in each other's profile. Because while there's no hierarchy, there's no better than, oh, this is the golden ticket, but this one isn't. They're all the golden ticket. However, this particular one does unlock a pretty kind of prosperity in which that what I feel like is interesting about it, it's an activator. And so when I think about activators, I'm thinking about fire signs. I'm thinking about my curriculum in this lifetime with 6 houses, 6 planets and fire for me is I'm meant to generate energy and I'm meant to activate things. So I can be a spark to things. I can be a trigger to things. That fire can push a lot of people away who are not welcoming of my radical authenticity. And so, there are certain people in our lives that just do things for us. And when we start recognizing the different frequencies in each other, we can say like, oh my gosh, I love that person. Or like, ooh, that person just triggers the shit out of me. And I embrace the possibility that for some people, I am that person that triggers the shit out of them. And I've experienced that within my family dynamics, which is why I know not to be true. And so on that note, I'm going to get into a little description about this particular gene key. This is coming from a different website this week. Glenda Hilsentegger, Hilsentegger.com is her website, and she posts little blurbs that will compile a summary of the gene keys. She does a pretty good job of it, and I have my own. I have a lot of them on Instagram, but I thought I would borrow hers this week. And so I'm going to read a little bit about the essence of this particular gene key 14. And this is the activating one. So yeah, I always say to fire signs, and here we are today. We just entered Sagittarius, fiery season. Sagittarius is freedom loving. Sagittarius feels everything. These are some characteristics of fire. Characteristics of Sagittarius has willpower, has determination. And so there's a spark, there's an engagement, something that gets activated. And so the reason that Sagittarius can go it alone sometimes is they shoot for the moon. They're the archer in the zodiac. And not everybody wants to seek freedom. A lot of people choose comfort and the illusion of safety. And so the Sagittarius spirit can go it alone a lot. And so as we are navigating this gene as it transits over to gene key 34, this would be an interesting time to just recognize the bounty that's already within us, so that as we move into Thanksgiving weekend and whatever things are happening on our planet happen, we implant a kind of softness into it, that we're not forcing everything, we're not compromising everything. We are remembering that we signed up for this curriculum, and we're going to soften into the experience that for some reason this is happening right now. I don't have to force my way through it. I can find the prosperity by having the gratitude for what's here rather than the comparative suffering of what's not here. So she writes in here, a Richard Rudd quote, "True power never needs to prove itself to others or the world. True power is only concerned with the job at hand." Ceasefire now. Hmm. Yeah. Competence is unafraid of success and power. It radiates confidence and assuredness wherever it goes. It's a force field that naturally creates prosperity. It cannot do otherwise because it has so much creative power within it. It has only to find the right outlet in the world. So here we go. The 14th gene key is a symbol of wealth, health, and prosperity, all themes linked to great fortune. The ancients called it possession in great measure. It's the Midas touch, the spirit of philanthropy, of gold, of the sun, of all the riches under the sun. This can all be ours when we learn to give of ourselves unconditionally, just like the sun. Compromise begins deep inside us. It's become the norm on earth. It's living without a sense of personal freedom. It's settling for second best and never fully enjoying what you do. It's become a habit for most of us, this compromising of our highest dreams. So consider the decisions that you make. When you make an inner compromise, you don't feel good. A part of you shrinks. To live a life of genius, you have to start believing in yourself again. You must get in touch with your heart and with your dreams. And because you may have lived a string of compromises until now, you may feel that you are trapped, but you're not. Just begin right now, making small decisions and actions that no longer compromise your sense of inner integrity. And remember, compromises will always need to be made. But on the inside, stay with what feels true to your heart and then take a stand. Give yourself permission to believe in yourself again. Summon your inner fire. Dare to dream and take actions that ignite your passion rather than those that douse the flames of your love. Pull yourself out of the shadow, back up into the light of excitement, empowered passion, and radiant prosperity. And, before I go on, I just want to just chime in there really quick. Um, Compromises will always need to be made. Just like I said, stay with what feels true to your heart. So, for example, the idea of a whole bunch of people getting together, eating food that's an animal isn't my favorite thing. And what's so beautiful is that I've acknowledged with my partner. My partner is very aware of right now, I'm physically not feeling good. I'm moving through some injury and some pain in my bodies. And, one of them being like a pain in my ribs here. And one thing we don't always hear about with these fire signs as we move into Sagittarius is these are deeply feeling energies. And so the compromise is for me, for us hosting Thanksgiving, is let's prep as much as we can today. Let's take it slow. Let's move an authentic pace. We've set up the tables, we've set up the chairs. We've got a plan to put on the tablecloths, tomorrow so that cats don't get into anything, and to start preparing the food and to make sure we went food shopping the other day because we didn't want to be there for the crowds. And so really I've just been like working with my partner at an authentic pace. How much can we slowly prepare and doing all the cleaning and all the things so that the day of Thanksgiving it's not like, and that was the compromise between both of us is yes, we can do this, but let's not force it and rush it and make it chaotic. Let's do it as peaceful as we can make it. Gift of confidence. Love is a fire. Having the 14th gene key in your profile is like being born with a silver spoon in your mouth. You have vast good fortune, and it's not only about money, although it truly does magnetize money. It's also about love. And one who loves unconditionally generates like the sun, huge inner wealth, abundance, and radiance. And in turn, this generates friends, opportunities, blessings, more joy, more to be grateful for, and even more love. Love begets love. Even if you have a good friend with this key, it's still good fortune because it's so contagious. The 14th gene key is mostly fire. It creates a deep inner drive to amass great fortune. And we must also remember that it's a defined formula. The more consistently we love someone over time, the more our love will melt them. Love is a fire that cannot be resisted, yet you must also be purposeful. So be sure to begin with a clear vision. Begin by asking your heart, what form of service do I really want to offer the world? And so now this city of bounteousness, this pure gold, it's true what it is. The city, the 14th city represents the element of gold. And the formula takes us into one word, gratitude. So look at your life. Oh, see this. This says grateful, and I tattooed this to me for my 33rd birthday. So look, and this is in my chart, and I had no idea at the time. So look at your life every day and count your blessings. This is the most powerful thing that you can do in life. Focus on all of your beauties in your life rather than the hardships. In fact, learn to look at even the hardships with gratitude, because then you'll be able to turn those into gold as well. Bounteous comes from that vast sense of gratitude, gratitude for the spark of life that you are. And when you nurture that spark of gratitude inside yourself, then it becomes a steady flame. And when you continue to nurture it, it becomes a fire. And when you nurture the fire, it becomes a sun inside of you. And the sun is nothing but bounteousness. It's inextinguishable. The sun gives of itself endlessly and tirelessly, and its gratitude is infinite. So I wanted to share a sacred play practice for this week as you are exploring these gene keys of competence and also of majesty, 34 and 14, and as we move into Thanksgiving week. So this is a 3-step gratitude practice. This is a practice to amplify your feelings of self-worth and receivership, which vibrationally transfers out to bring in more prosperity, which is perfect for the week of Thanksgiving. So this is summoning the energy of grace to actually flow through you so that you can give and receive, which is the exact same frequency, in perfect balance. And so amplifying our self-worth, this feels like a really simple practice, and it is. And what's so beautiful about all of these, this is the programming partner to simplicity, or within the codon ring of simplicity. So it's like, keep it simple, sweetheart. So this amplifying self-worth, list 5 things that you've done right today. Now, no matter how big or small or basic or simple or seemingly inconsequential, I will give you a minute to write down or contemplate those things right now. We're amplifying our self-worth. 5 things that you've done right today, doesn't matter how small. I'm going to go as well. I did a yoga practice. And when my yoga practice cut off, the internet cut off, I went back to it. I didn't just give up. I said, okay, I will do 2 yoga practices. So I met with the resistance and I went back to it. So I'm going to give myself 2 points there. Amplifying self-worth. What have I done right today? Also, showed up here today. I showed up authentic, alive, ready to hold space for whoever came on the call. If anybody came on the call, I'm here. This is my bounty. This is my number 3, amplifying my self-worth. My next 4th one was authentic communication with my partner. I told him, hey, babe, I don't feel good. My body hurts. I've cried like 3 times today, had a big old soggy shower. And that was me. This is 4 and 5 for me. The radical authenticity. Hey, babe, this is where I'm at right now. I'm going to move a lot of energy. I'm going to go outside. I'm going to do some yoga, and I'm going to do all the things. And also, I'm going to accept the fact that today is very emotional for me. It's a double fire day. I feel everything in my body, and my body hurts. And so that was 5. And anchoring gratitude, list 5 things you're grateful for and why. when we add that why, we amplify the impact. So anchor gratitude, 5 things you're grateful for and why. I am so grateful for a virtual community that offers me the ability to connect with people while also staying in my little bubble where I don't even need to leave the house. I don't even need a car. I can do all the things I want to do right from my home. How beautiful is that? I anchor in gratitude for virtual spaces. So grateful. I'm grateful for my partnership. I say it all the time. I'll never get tired of saying it. I'm so grateful that I found a place within me, even when I forget all of the freaking time, that loves myself so much that I was able to cultivate the perfect relationship for me, to meet my soulmate, to be in this together, to create together, to live together, to be madly in love together, which was always my dream when I was a child. Is I want to be that gross couple that's like madly in love. And like that's us. My partner wakes up and tells me I'm beautiful when I've got like stanky breath and whatever. And the same every night before I go to bed. It's like complete fairy tale. I'm so grateful for it. Gratitude. I am grateful for my freedom and my spaciousness in my time. I love working for myself. I love cultivating spaces where I can be here and I can be there and I've got space between them and I'm not in a rat race. I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful for the level of consciousness that I have within my community, that I get to have really philosophical conversations. Sagittarius season, I've got a stellium in Sagittarius. This is all about philosophy. This is talking about truth. This is freeing ourselves through truth. So Sagittarius season, I am grateful for you and all of my beautiful brothers and sisters that I get to cultivate these really rich conversations and communications with in all the ways. So lastly, let's tell the universe, I'm now worthy to receive more. Let's say that 2 more times. I'm now worthy to receive more. I am now worthy to receive more. And now list 5 things you are now willing to come into your life. What are you welcoming in? In this one, I'm going to take a moment of silence while I welcome these things in for me, and I give you the space to welcome these things in for you. So 5 things we are willing in, we are welcoming in. Let's sit in that vibrational reality of it is so, it has already happened, it is complete. Let's anchor in that feeling, that embodiment of gratitude now. Beautiful. So now let's jump over to our other favorite, Unlock Your Design. This is going to look at the archetype. So now we've played around a little bit with the frequency. And now let's look at the archetype. This is coming from Unlock Your Design, 64 Doors. So Gene Key 14, this is the archetype of the power. This is energy, efficiency, prosperity. So who is this archetype? Embodying the power to find a unique direction in life, the powerhouse has the skills and the commitment to motivate new projects and drive creative endeavors toward fulfillment. Much like a generator, this archetype has the energy to sustain long hours of creative work. This creative potential lies in loving the work that they're involved in. The powerhouse must not compromise the wholehearted commitment of his energy. His competence is grounded in his capacity to focus and perform a task with complete precision and elegance in alignment with natural and harmonious rhythms. He moves in his own time. When he is passionate about his labor, he becomes a magnetic original and attracts endless synchronistic opportunities. The powerhouse uses his natural skills to create bounteous prosperity and a powerful reserve of expansive resources. True prosperity emerges from committing our spirit to the important work that we've all been called to accomplish, rather than resigning ourselves to the fruitless monotony of any collective machine. This archetype is unafraid of success and power. He radiates authentic confidence and assuredness wherever he goes. The powerhouse is in an intimate tantric relationship with the feminine, Gene Key 2, who functions as the way shower and gives him a viable direction. Their strong polarity creates a passionate relationship. These archetypes are like the keepers of the keys that can unlock anything they focus on. When properly directed by the feminine, the powerhouse becomes a significant catalyst for empowering change in the world. I love this so much. I love to speak on sacred union too. When you have that synergy with others, whether it's a relationship, it's a partnership, it's a collaboration, it's a best friend, you can create those really dynamic relationships that keep being catalyzed for empowerment through one person as the masculine doing and the other person as the feminine receiving the information for planting each seed. For me, that's one of my greatest services that I like to contribute to a relationship as being an astrologer. So an entrepreneurial astrologer can help my partner see the different patterns on this might be the best time to do this, that, and the other. Of course, it can all be bullshit, but it's fun to play. So the powerhouse and the feminine are not bringing up their children in a conventional way. They know that homogenization will kill the creative spirit of young children and create imbalance between the right and left hemispheres of the brain. So instead, they encourage unique qualities and let the individual passion and enthusiasm of each child show the way. They teach their children to believe in themselves. Every child has an inner spark that, when allowed, can ignite awareness of their true vocation in life. Much like the influencer, which is the programming partner, Gene Key 8, this is the shadow of mediocrity, the gift of style, the divine essence of exquisiteness. The powerhouse has an innate desire to make a contribution to humanity. Both the influencer and the powerhouse express a genius so original and contagious that their energy can cause a shift in the frequency of the collective, simply by showing up as who they really are. They show us that prosperity created from true passion will naturally contribute to the greater good. The powerhouse is also a close relationship to the spark, Gene Key 1. Together, they are the portal guardians to the codon ring of fire. This codon ring represents the energetic gem at the heart of creation. When the inner divine fire is released through our DNA, we become capable of miraculous power and beauty. The codon ring of fire held by the powerhouse, Gene Key 14, and the spark, Gene Key 1, forms an eternal genetic love knot, or infinity 8, with the codon ring of water held by the feminine, Gene Key 2, and the influencer, Gene Key 8. This four-way partnership produces the divine qualities of bounteousness, beauty, unity, and exquisiteness. Together, these two codon rings move through human beings along the trajectory of their individual destinies and further helps to ensure that everyone finds their opposite match. Their story defines the blueprint for sacred union, the dynamic balancing and merging of all opposing forces within us. So keywords here: competence, passion, work. So Gene Key 14 is like a generator, is moving, does have all this determination, is in flow, is producing, but it's producing out of its competency and from its passion. It's not forcing, it's so in the flow, creatively inspired. And so I know for me, one of the ways I've been working with this is the 40 days of devotion. This has been a life changing practice that I've been doing for years now. My competence came through my consistency. My masculine was able to marry my feminine in sacred union when I was playing in magic every day and then doing something with it, creating a container for it. And so a container might be literally an altar, could be the tapestry on an altar. And then you bring in something that symbolizes each of the elements. And then you sit there with a prayer, you light a candle, you set an intention. Boom, alchemy, magic, when you give it a little bit of time and faith and you release that prayer, that it is done. And so this competence is so much in that prayer practice that the joy of being your job is your prayer. So it's not my job to go out and run the rat race of the normal 9 to 5 because that doesn't feel in alignment with my heart's truest desire. And by honoring that and creating a devotional practice that I come back to every single day with that divine masculine structure, that every day I'm going to devote myself to playing in magic. I'm going to devote this time to playing in magic. That's going to create the bounty of reclaiming what's already here, because every single time that I go into my rising ritual, I merge with something greater than me. And in that remembering, all of a sudden I'm like, what to-do list? This is a freaking playground, and I'm just here to keep remembering that. And every time I forget, there's going to be a situation that offers me that divine alignment of remembering. The Achilles heel here also is important to note, because these people have to be inspired in order to make a genuine contribution. And so their aura can be contagious for good or for bad. So someone that's really inspired is going to create a lot of momentum. When you've got that person in your group that's like the social butterfly, she's making the commitments, she's making the dinner plans, you already know that you're going to get this beautiful event put together because there's a spark in your group that loves the planning, loves the execution, loves all of that, is genuinely inspired to get everybody together to have a great time. Now, there might be somebody else that is, within your group that is, if you were in an organization, if you were in, working for Apple, and your contribution was on creating a certain amount of keywords to put in an SEO thing. I'm just trying to think of the most boring thing for me. If you are sitting there completing tasks all day, I think tasks is a really good word for this. If you're sitting there creating tasks and just checking off the to-do list for somebody else all day, you're lacking that feeling that you're inspired or that you're making a general contribution. And that in itself, if that's how it feels for you, is the compromise. And so this gene invites you to stop compromising, stop doing what everybody wants you to do. I think of the Notebook, when Noah comes and Allie's all freaking out and she doesn't know what she wants. And he's, what do you want? Like every woman when it comes to like dinner time, what do you want? And it's like, don't make this decision for your parents. Don't make the decision for that guy. Of course, there's going to be some guy that wants to marry you. Of course, your parents are going to want you to be with someone that can provide long-term sustainability for you and resources for you. But what do you want? When society is not telling you what you should want, what do you actually want? And on that note, I'm going to bring us into the Wisdom Keeper story from Dr. Rosie Aronson's deck, The 64 Faces of Awakening. This is such a beautiful companion for the Gene Keys. It starts off with a Richard Rudd quote that says, oh, and we did this quote, but I'll do it again. Competence carries within it efficiency, enthusiasm, flair, and flexibility, the 4 keys to material success. So here's the wisdom story. And also here is the card, Competence, number 14. My wisdom story. I was born a prince, but my family was exiled from our country. To survive, my parents wiped the royalty right out of our past. We became a normal family in a normal world. We lived in a modest home. I went to a conventional school, and I was taught to want what everyone else wanted. And as I became a young man, I worked like everyone else to attain stability and success. I got married, studied hard, and found respectable jobs. I made money and received recognition, lots of recognition. I never loved what I did, nor did I expect to. What mattered was that I played by the rules. I provided for my wife, and I was winning the game. But as time passed and my status grew, so did a sinking feeling in my gut. I felt trapped and devoid of passion, as if something important was missing from my life. So my wife and I decided it was time to have children. But no matter how hard we tried, we couldn't conceive. The more frustrated, ashamed, and impotent I felt, the harder I struggled to prove myself in the professional world. I was willing to compromise everything for success, including my health and the intimacy in my marriage. As my wife and I drifted apart, my body began to suffer. Despite my stubborn attempts to deny my pain, my wife finally confronted me one night. Peering into my dulled eyes, she gripped my shoulders and exclaimed, "Enough! No more success. It's killing you. It's killing us. And it's never going to fill that big old void within you." Then, with great tenderness and sincerity, she asked me what it was that I did want. What did I dream for myself and for my life if I wasn't worried about providing for her or so enslaved by success? What did I truly want? In that moment, I realized I had never asked myself that question in my entire life. Tears rolled down my face like an undammed river. Together with my wife, I learned how to dream again. Eventually, we did grab hold of our souls, let go of the empire, and embarked on a wild and unexpected adventure. It was nothing less than pure enthusiasm that led us back home to my country of birth and ultimately awakened my true competence. Now I am far from normal, a king, devoted to serving and protecting thousands of returning child refugees. My wife and I love each other and all that we do. My enthusiasm is so contagious that the children can't help but follow their hearts. My gift to you, I am here to remind you of your dreams and to encourage you to take an honest look at your life. It's time to put the fire back into your belly and to stop making compromises. The more you compromise, the more trapped you'll become in a life that isn't even yours. You were born to inherit a rich, fulfilling, and harmonious life and to experience competence. I see you cutting through obstacles, loving what you do, becoming a magnetic original, and adapting creatively to each new synchronistic opportunity that comes your way. Open to the bounteousness that awaits. Questions for contemplation. Where are you compromising in your life? Where are you settling? Where are you leaking precious energy? Think of a time you had fire in your belly. What does competence mean to you? When have you felt the most competent in your life? Do you share the bounteousness of your gift with others? What dream is asking to be pulled out of the closet? Find a way to rekindle a dream and share your bounty today. So we're going to have the full moon on Monday. Full moon is a really beautiful time for release. And as I said, we've got a little bit of opportunity potentially coming up later this week for release. So double fire days, sun in Scorpio, sun in Sagittarius today, moon in Aries, double fire. We actually have 4 planets in fire altogether today. So this could go a couple ways. We could feel really ignited and motivated. We could feel tons of determination and willpower. We could also feel like we have to perform and be overproducing simply because we have energy. And then we can burn ourselves at both ends because we don't actually use that energy in the right direction. A lot of us get distracted. A lot of us, for whatever it is that veers us off our path, it can become an outer compromise because the outer compromise is outside of our own divine truth. And what happens a lot of times, and I can be super guilty of this, is I might feel something in my field and it might feel more comfortable for me to kind of start processing that because I want to feel better in my body. And so sometimes I take on the energy of others and I try to manipulate it. And I'm totally guilty of this because I think we all need to note that that's why we are here. We are master manipulators. Ma is matter. Ma is material world. Ma is maternal. Ma is creation. Ma is manipulating matter, which is manifestation. Mani is our hands. This is what we do all the time. We're constantly manipulating matter, frequency, and what our gift as light workers is not to go in there and come down into the denser energy of a lower vibrational setting, but instead to go in there in your radical aliveness, in your true authenticity, and that is going to raise the vibration of the collective space because you didn't compromise. Because you didn't say, well, now that I'm around these people, I'm going to dress different. I'm going to talk shit about these people. I'm going to change my car. I'm going to change myself. And I'm going to position myself to be liked within this group. That's what compromise is. It's that needing to be liked or validated. And anybody that's got fire in their charts, permission to acknowledge that you are here to trigger people sometimes, and that can be hard. And that's why people that are fire people can be deeply feeling, because we have provoked people before, because people may have tried to dampen our fire, diminish and extinguish it. And we just keep rising from the ashes because that's our curriculum. That's why we're here. We keep churning. We have more momentum. Sagittarius is like, oh shit, that trauma only fuels me towards freedom because it actually gives me a look to say, oh, wow, I don't feel free here. That means there's an opportunity for me to actually transmute this and be in a greater state of awakening, in a lighter state of bliss, of ecstasy, of joy. And so, and so the repressive nature of a gene key 14 is impotent. For those who are unconsciously dominated by fear, the 14th shadow represents an almost inescapable dilemma. The more one compromises in life, the more powerless one feels to escape it. A great deal of our actual vital life energy is held within this 14th gene key. And when we do not release this energy through work we find fulfilling, our power becomes choked up inside us. So think about those mindless scrolling that you do on your phone, or binge watching on Netflix, or numbing out with food. All of that is stuffing down your power. You're like, oh my gosh, my power is so great. It's so immeasurable that it actually frightens me. So I'm going to suffocate it and extinguish my own flame. And that's that impotence, is not recognizing or just being too afraid of that power. Like that Marianne Williamson quote, which I love so much, is like, we are not powerless. We're just afraid of how powerful we actually are. Let's see. The word impotent has the double connotation of applying to our sexuality, which is also deeply connected to this 14th gene key. Sexual vibrancy and fertility, in part, rises and falls upon how much fulfillment we get out of our lives. Making compromises out of fear will actually deplete our fertility. Impotence does not necessarily mean that one appears weak. Repressed natures often do a good job of hiding their weaknesses by going along with whatever happens. True impotence in this respect is about not having the courage to stand alone and pursue one's unique path. So now on the outer facing of this, so if you're considered to be introverted, you may feel more in alignment with a repressed nature. If you tend to be more extroverted, you may feel in alignment with more of a reactive nature. The reactive nature to the 14th gene key is enslaved. The reactive nature of this shadow is also based upon basic insecurity, but instead of collapsing into impotence, these people react by trying to prove themselves. This is a classic pattern in the world today. We see people working hard in jobs that are not really right for them, in an attempt to prove to themselves and others that they are special. These people are enslaved to their own need for recognition. Ironically, even when they receive recognition, it doesn't fulfill them because they've never unleashed their true potential in life. Such people are merely pretending to be powerful in life. If you provoke them, they'll soon show their insecurity through their rage. True power never needs to prove itself to others or the world. True power is only concerned with the job at hand. So, every human being is built in with a genetic need to work. And it's interesting because the word work has become associated in the English language with the concept of effort, which shows just how deeply the collective shadow of this 14th gene key has descended into our lives. Work can actually mean a whole lot of things. When we look at work as simply energy, we might change the way we apply our energy. Compromise is the byproduct of living without a sense of personal freedom. It implies a lack of imagination and an inability to believe in the power of your own uniqueness and individuality. And so this shadow is paired with the shadow of mediocrity. When you live a life that's just mediocre and normal and average and boring and not yours, not in alignment with your divine potential, but simply keeping up with the Joneses or doing things that society may exemplify or your family might give you a gold star for. And this compromise begins deep inside of us. And it really stems back from our childhood. You know, when we are aspiring to greatness when we're young, a lot of times when we are of a certain age, our parents, our environments totally support the madder the dream, the better. Oh, you want to be an astronaut? That's fantastic. You're going to be the best astronaut. Oh my gosh, you're going to be a scientist. You're going to cure cancer. Oh my gosh, you're going to free everybody. And kids have these amazing potentials for greatness. And then there comes some point in our lives where parents or the society around us, they don't have that same passion. They don't have that same excitement when we say that we're going to go to the moon or that we're going to cure cancer or that we're going to change the world. There starts to be more of this reality checking of like, well, how are you going to do that? And are you going to go to school for that? Or how are you going to learn that? Or how can you affect this many people? Or X, Y, and Z, with all the excuses, where people start diminishing their dream and be like, I mean, I wanted to cure cancer, but I do have bills to pay and I really can't afford to go to school for 20 years and then that amount of debt, while I don't want to, live with my parents, and I'm trying to get onto my own, and I'm trying to, and it's like, at some point, we all recognize that the homogenized education is a total conspiracy. It's a total bullshit plan of propaganda of training us to be cogs in a wheel. Post-industrial revolution, now we have the world of studies, of academia, and now we force little kids to sit at a desk for 6 hours, when instead of just saying that we need childcare because all our parents are working now, we've started homogenizing education and created this formal training in which we overwhelm kids. They're overstimulated because no kid can keep up with that amount of classes at that age. I've got this C.S. Lewis quote here that I love, that says, "The greatest service we can do to education today is to teach fewer subjects. No one has time to do more than a few things well before he is 20. And when we force a boy to be a mediocrity in a dozen subjects, we destroy his standards, perhaps for life." So we've all heard that Albert Einstein quote. I tried to do this before and I screwed it up, but if we judged a fish for how well he could climb a tree, we wouldn't really give a lot of kudos to that fish, would we? That fish would not be feeling too good about himself, now would he? And that's what we do in education. We say everybody has to take this exact standardized test, go through this exact formula, and it simply does not produce the results of an inspired, creative, passionate, artistic expression in anyone. Because now what you've created is a paradigm of competition, because you've put us now in these classrooms that we have to compete to get the better score, to get the gold star, to go on to the formal education, to get the scholarship. So there's like this whole hierarchy that's get placed in our formal education that was just completely made up, just to take us out of the creative way of thinking so that we could simply conform to a society. So that through enough conditioning and programming, we could actually believe that it's such a blessing to work 9 to 5 in a cubicle with fluorescent lighting, and then come home and go grocery shopping with groceries that we can barely afford, and then try to work on our blog, even though we've been starved all day from our creative excitement and there's no passion left, and now we're tired, and now we got to cook dinner for the kids, and don't forget to put out the clothes for tomorrow because it's school picture day, and we got to make sure that we iron them all, and then we do it all again. And it's like, at what point does anybody have any creativity left in them when they've literally exhausted themselves by doing a bunch of bullshit? And so as we navigate the gene keys, you really start to see the pattern in all of this, that yes, there's nuance between this gene and this gene, and this might physiologically be felt in a certain kind of way, but you really start to realize the victim mindset is always the shadow, and it's always what we're going to feel out in the collective. And it's when life is happening to us. There's no accountability. There's no radical responsibility. We just think that we're just free flowing. There's no reason for us to have a response or a care to respond in an effective way. And that's like being just asleep through the dream, is not giving a shit. Competence or bounteousness, the silver spoon that we get handed with this gene. Anybody that's contemplating this gene is going to have the opportunity to unlock prosperity. And you're going to unlock prosperity and the bounteousness within you just because you claim it, just because you have gratitude for it, just because you acknowledge it, it's already here. So that little gratitude practice that we did earlier, that might spark off into a creative insight that comes into your dream later. Or maybe in meditation, something kind of pops in and it's, hey, you should call this person. Or, hey, you haven't heard from that person in a while. It might be a good time to reach out. Or remember that book that somebody mentioned to you? Maybe pull that out and read that. Like whenever we are tapping into our inherent wealth, the universe will keep reminding us how bounteous we really are. Hey, that person that you know. Hey, that thing that you did. Hey, that whatever it is, it just starts connecting you. This is such a gene of connection. And that's why it is so beautiful to learn with others who also has this in their chart, who's playing with this, and how have you unlocked the gifts of prosperity within it. And now, just to finish up this call, I'm going to share a little bit on Gene Key 34. This is the shadow of strength. This is the gift. I'm sorry. This is the shadow of force. This is the gift of strength. This is the divine essence of majesty. So by the time we have our next call, we will move beyond this gene. So it might get skipped. We'll kind of see if I do it or not. But within that spirit of compromise, we're looking at also the shadow of force. Force is the same as the compromise. Force is trying. And so there's a beautiful story that Richard read that just comes back to Star Wars and the original line from the Star Wars movie, do or do not, there is no try. That in itself is the frequency of force. Force is trying. And I would acknowledge anytime you're using that language or you hear it come up in your field, trying is forcing. It is not do, it is do not. There is some kind of story or narrative that's playing around anytime that somebody says trying, where they're not in true alignment with whatever they're doing. And there's something that's being forced. And so maybe that happens at the dinner table over Thanksgiving when your uncle wants to talk about politics. And you're like, oh my gosh, get me out of here. How can you soften into the experience? I'm not going to force you to have my beliefs, but I'm not going to compromise my beliefs to get in a debate about politics with you. And so I'm going to be competent to stand my ground, to have grace, to know when to be pulling away and to use strength. There's strength in resistance. There's strength in ease. There's strength in pliability. There's strength in adaptability. And so right now, we're going through these shifts astrologically this week. And as we go through these shifts, my invitation, my loving invitation is don't force anything. Do or do not. There is no try. And so the beautiful mantra for this week, whether it's compromise and it's Gene Key 14, or it's the gift of strength and it's Gene Key 34 that we roll into today, this quote, easy is right. That's it. Keep it simple. We don't need to overcomplicate any of this. This is a playground. Time is an illusion. We're here to have fun. We're here to manipulate matter with our imagination, with our hands. Our prosperity is our divine birthright. Our spells are our words. So when we can actually recognize the inherent power that's within us, the bounteousness, the prosperity that already lies within us, we stop wanting for everything. I don't need a Lamborghini and I don't need a private jet along with this, that, and the other. Like some of those things might be nice, but I'm not validated in my existence by getting those. I'm not compromising myself to say, in order for me to feel love, I have to have this, that, and the other that's outside of me, that's validating me. That's my compromise. My gift of competence is that remembrance. I already have everything that I will ever need. It's already lying within me. When I can release lovingly that resistance that says, I need to change, I need to try, I need to do better. Enlightenment's on the other side of this. Something's coming, someone will save me. When I can drop all of those stories and I just literally simply on this magic carpet ride, floating along, having no idea where I'm going, but I have my beloved on this carpet ride with me. And all I know is that I'm safe, I'm free, I'm prosperous, and this life is beautiful. And those are the 4 pillars to this gene, is those acknowledgments. When we can have gratitude, when we can acknowledge those 4 aspects of our human psyche in all times with a softening to this life is beautiful. And I love Reverend Brianna Lynn's mantra that she uses all the time, which I'm going to close with. That is, everything is perfect, as well as my desire for it to be different. I can acknowledge that I want both. I can be within the receivership of it's already here. Love is emanating outside of me, and I just get to bask in it. And that's the most beautiful thing. And also, not everyone has attained this level of peace and harmony. And while there is genocide and war and catastrophe and conflict and the witch trials all over again, as this continues to happen on our planet, I also have a huge desire for it to be different. It's accepting and honoring both. And I devote myself through my competency that every day I will come back to baseline in my devotional practice. And then I'll get an inspired action, like texting my congressman and saying, ceasefire now, or writing a letter or making a phone call, or whatever competent little inspired action comes in that aligns you with your service, which is why we're here. On that note, happy 333, sending you love, blessings, bounty for this Thanksgiving harvest. I love you. Namaste.